Hey everyone, welcome back to Toasty TCG. So today I'm bringing Magic back to the channel with my Nadu Wizard Tribal. This was a commander that I wanted to build on the reveal of the deck, and my initial idea was playing just like a lot of good kind of control stacks creatures, so that way as you progress your board, you're either going to of course progress your board, or your opponent's going to try to deal with what you're playing, and then eventually Nadu's just going to make sure that you don't gas out. I found it was just kind of clunky because there wasn't a whole lot of synergy with those stacks control type guys, so it hinged greatly on people targeting the deck, because the thing is, I didn't want to play Lightning Greaves, I didn't want to play Shuko, Umbral Mantle, all the little untapped tap guys, because I felt that was just kind of brainless, and it wasn't very thought-provoking to me. It just felt like just copying everyone else wasn't a fun idea. So what I did do is I built that deck initially, I tried that out, and then in one game I actually found out this very interesting interaction. So a card that was originally in the list was Patron Wizard, who you can tap. You tap an untapped wizard to counter a spell unless its controller pays 1. Initially, this was just, I get to play an annoying 3-drop. People are gonna either deal with it, or I'm gonna make people's spells cost 1 more. It's gonna be a little funny guy. And then I realized Nadu is a bird wizard, so they kind of synergize together. And that's when I had the idea that I can build Wizard Tribal out of Nadu. So you already know what Nadu does, that's what you're here for, so I don't need to get into that. And I've already described what Patron Wizard does, so let's get into this list. So for our wizards, Patron Wizard, we have Disruptive Student, who can tap to counter spells like Patron Wizard. We have a Feto Grifter, who can tap 2 untapped wizards. Keep in mind, Nadu would be one of them, to tap any permanent. We have Sigil Tracer. This card's really crazy. So for 1 and a blue, you tap 2 untapped wizards to copy an instant or sorcery, and you get new targets for the copy, of course. So this is just a constant 1 in a blue, copy whatever the best spell is being cast. There's so many times where I'll copy a Risk Card's Expertise, draw a bunch of cards. I'll copy a counter spell in response to what I'm doing. I'll copy a removal spell, so me and the person casting the removal can kind of double tap whoever the threat is. This card is super flexible. Temporal Adept, triple blue, you turn any permanent to the owner's hand. Fate Spinner, super good. On each opponent's upkeep, they either have to skip their draw step, both of their main steps, or their combat. The reason that skips both is because it says the player skips every instance of the chosen step or phase. So if they choose their main phase, they have to skip both of them. If they take if they have the Sphinx of the Second Sun, and they go to take their second untap after choosing to skip their draw, they skip their draw again. It's really just fantastic card. Disruptive Pit Mage, this is another copy of Disruptive Student or the Patron Wizard. So you just tap it, counter a spell unless they pay 1, and it has Morph, which never really comes up. Realm Walker, of course, calling wizards. You can look at the top of your library and cast wizards off top of your library, and it has Changeling, so it's a wizard. Speaking of Changelings, we have Orvar the Old Form. So whenever you cast an instant or sorcery that targets one of your permanents, you have to make a copy of that, which will come up later. We'll talk about that. And if it does get discarded, you get to make a token of a copy of a target permanent. I've had that come up one time. It's pretty funny. Casmina, the Enigmatic Mentor. So, of course, not a wizard itself, but her -2 ability makes wizards and draws you cards. And then spells your opponent's cast that target a creature or a planeswalker cost 2 more. So it gives your board kind of a ward 2. Supreme Inquisitor. So you get to tap 5 of your wizards to search your opponent's library for 5 cards and remove them from the game. This is something that I just think the art looks cool. It kind of just it's a wizard, so I wanted to play it. So if you don't like this card, like if you feel like it's overcosted for what it's doing, because it is a 1/3 too, so like this card is kind of like pretty weak. But I just think it's cool. It's a wizard, so we're throwing it in. Beguiler of Wills. You get to yoink a creature with power less than or equal to number of creatures you control. And this being a creature deck, you're going to have a lot of creatures typically and just permanently take things. The Fairy Mage of Zalfir. He has Flash. Creatures that you own that are on the battlefield have Flash, and your opponents can only play at sorcery speed with their spells. Azami, Lady of Scrolls. You get to tap down your wizards to draw cards. Again, not a wizard, but this card synergizes super well with the whole strategy, because since so many wizards focus on tapping themselves down or their wizards, Seedborn just untaps them every untap. So you get to draw every turn, you get to counter things every turn. Seedborn is super good in this deck. Memnarch, another, I didn't even realize this was a wizard, artifact wizard. Make things into artifacts and steals artifacts. This card is phenomenal. And our final wizard is the Galecaster Colossus, who whenever you tap an untapped wizard, you get to return a non-land you don't control with the owner's hand. So that's kind of like the win con in the deck. Like the main like wizard win con is like your Seedborn Muse, your Galecaster, and you just have a bunch of wizards in play. So every turn you just tap down your wizards for Galecaster and just lift your opponent's whole board, and you just get to untap. And it's kind of like the way that the wizard engine wins is effectively just locking the table out of the game. You have wizards that counter, you can tap things down, you can draw cards, you can bounce things. So once you get like your Seedborn Muse and Galecaster online, you can typically win the game from there, just off like your wizards. But there's a lot of other things in the deck too. Before we get into that, let's just talk about our removal. We have a Witness Protection, Pognify, Swan Song, Resculpt, Counterspell, Return to Nature, Beast Within, Rexage, Manglehorn. This is actually one of the cards that was originally in the deck because your opponent's artifacts enter tap, so it's kind of like part of the stacks type of idea. There's also like a Collector Roof in here, things like that. So if you want to go like the stacks route, that was kind of like part of the idea. But yeah, it's still just like, it still has that ability, so some people might target this to remove it. When it enters, it hits an artifact, so it's like, it's pretty decent. Oversimplify, this is one of the few board wipes I could find for the deck. Exile all creatures, and then each player makes a fractal with 1/1 counters, equal number of creatures that they controlled. So Simic is kind of pushed for board wipes. You have this, Cyclonic Rift, like things like Whelming Wave. So it's hard to like actually get board wipes in this deck. I think this was like the one that I ended up with. I don't have a Psych Rift in this deck. But also it puts a creature on your board. Acidic Slime, ETBs, hits an artifact, enchantment, or land. Silverback Elder, it has 3 modes. One of them destroys artifacts or enchantments, and you get to choose a mode when you cast a creature spell. The other modes can let you look 5 cards deep and get a land, or gain 4 life. Kogla, the Titan Ape, enters the battlefield, it fights something. Whenever it attacks, it destroys the defending player's artifact or enchantment. And for 1 in green, you can bounce a human to give it indestructible. And some of our wizards are human wizards, so that can come up. And finally, Royal Elemental has landfall. You get to take a creature your opponent controls for as long as you control the Royal Elemental. So it gives you more creatures for people to try to target and get your Nadu triggers. And speaking of triggering our Nadu, we have 5 cards to do that. Our Ulvenwold Tracker. It's 1 in green, target creature you control, fights another creature to trigger Nadu. Rancor is an enchantment creature, or chance creature, so that will trigger Nadu. +2/+0 trample. And the reason we're playing this is as soon as it goes to their grave from the battlefield, we get back to our hand. So it's for a single green, make creature get +2/+0 and trample. If they get rid of the creature, you get this back to your hand, you can cast it again, getting your Nadu triggers. Spellskite can redirect spells and abilities to itself. So if someone goes to target one of your like more important creatures, you get that Nadu trigger, and then you can redirect the spell or ability to Spellskite, getting that Nadu trigger. Ivy, the Gleeful Spell Thief. Player casts a spell with only targets 1 creature. You can also make a copy and have it target Ivy, which will get your Nadu trigger for Ivy. And then Mirage Mirror. 2 mana, it becomes a copy of any artifact, creature, enchantment, or land for the end of the turn. So you can target your own things with this, which will get their Nadu triggers. So that is all of our ways to trigger Nadu on our own. Well, not all of them, but these are like intentionally played for that reason. Then we have our ramp, of course, Soul Ring, some Mana Dorks, and the big 4. Rampant, 3 visits, Nature's Lore, Farseek. And then we're actually playing some Blink stuff. So for a reason that we're playing like some of the cards we're playing with the Acidic Slime, the Ewits, Orvar, the Ulform. So you have Teferi's Time Twist, which exiles any permanent that you control, and then you just get to put it back on the battlefield beginning next end step, the 1/1 counter. So you're playing like some Blink spells in here. Planar Incision, Siren's Ruse. We're just playing this because it's actually one of the only cards I could get a hold of for Blink. There's a single blue mana Blink spell, way better than this. So if you have that card, definitely play that over Siren's Ruse. Not a Blink spell, but it's like the same idea. You bounce 2 creatures that different players control to their owner's hands. Ghostly Flicker, Thassa Deep Dwelling, Displacer Kitten, and Conjurer's Closet. So these are all your Blink spells. So you can get like your Acidic Slime triggers again, you can get your Ewit triggers again, things like that. And finally, I didn't have like really a spot to classify these cards, so I kind of just threw them into one pile. So there's not a lot of draw in this deck, otherwise I'd say this should be in the draw pile. But Ponder, you have Vexing Bauble. Definitely big fan of this card. This is kind of like a card for my local meta. When a player casts a spell, if nothing was paid to cast it, it gets countered. And then if you're playing in a pod where no one's playing like Cascade, Discover, Suspend decks, you can just sack it, draw a card. Heroic Intervention, Scavenging Ooze, Propaganda, Death Gorge Scavenger. This is actually a card that I came across I thought was pretty cool. Enters or attacks, you get to exile a card from any grave. If it's a creature, you gain 2 life. Anything else, it gets 1/1 counter until it gets +1/+1 until end of turn. Eternal Witness, like I mentioned before, is in this deck. Howling Moon, so this is actually another way to get your Nadu triggers in, because at the beginning of combat, target wolf or werewolf gets +2/+2, and when an opponent casts their second spell for the turn, you get a 2/2 wolf. So it puts creatures on your battlefield for Nadu triggers, and every combat you're going to get a Nadu trigger. Well, every one of your combats. Uro, so this deck doesn't have a lot of recursion. I figured if I'm in the colors to play an Elder Giant, and I'm not playing a lot of recursion, so like my grave's going to fill up, I might as well play the Elder Giant of that color. I do the same in a lot of decks where it's just like, oh, if I don't have recursion going on, I might as well throw the Elder Giant in that could just like eat up those cards and get me more value. And then finally, Elder Gargaroth. Vigilance, Reach, Trample, attacks or blocks. You can get a 3/3, you can gain 3 life, or you can draw a card. Those are pretty solid abilities. And then onto the land base, nothing like crazy. You have Animal Sanctuary, taps for colorless, or for 2, you put a 1/1 counter on target bird, cat, dog, goat, ox, or snake. That's pretty much only ever targeting Nadu, so you can make Nadu bigger and get his triggers, because it does target. Riptide Laboratory, 1 in blue, it returns a wizard you control to your hand. Well, it returns target wizards, so you get your Nadu trigger off that. A Reliquary Tower. Manamo, untaps target legendary permanent. And then from there we just have a lot of just basics and duels. Got Breeding Pool, your Hinterland Harbor, Dreamroot Cascade, Rejuvenating Spring, Hedge Mage, Command Tower, Misty, Temple of Mystery. And you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 forests. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 islands. So that is my list for Nadu. Things I would change for it, I think I would add a Maskwood Nexus. I feel like that'd be kind of flavorful. It makes me more changelings, and anything that's not a wizard can become a wizard. So that's something I would consider adding into this deck. I'm not really positive what I would cut for it. I think it'd be a pretty solid addition. Of course, you can throw in like all the good spells like you play for your guardianships, you play like mana crypts, all the crazy stuff if you want to. I feel like Nadu's pushed enough where it's like you can do like real fun stuff with like this. Like you don't have to play like all the lightning greaves, all the Shukos, all the like untap your guys, psych rifts, things like that. Because this deck, like, it does enough by itself where I don't feel like I need those cards, but I could play them if I wanted to. Yeah, this deck is pretty cool. I'm having a lot of fun with it. I feel like I did something that other people aren't really, like, going towards. A lot more people are playing, like, the dirtily version where you're just, like, equip, unequip, equip, unequip, equip, unequip, draw, like, a bajillion cards. I like this version more because I get to play, like, out of the box. Like, no one's expecting you to, like, for this to matter. The amount of times where it's like I'll activate one of my wizards by tapping Nadu and someone goes like, wait, that's a wizard too? It's like kind of like they kind of realize, oh, this is like a wizard tribal deck. It's not like a Nadu deck. It's not a traditional Nadu deck, at least. Yeah, I've had a lot of fun with this deck so far, and I hope that you try it out and enjoy it as much as I have. Let me know what you guys think about this. If you enjoy this type of content, of course, like the video, subscribe to the channel, all that nice stuff, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.